Hello and welcome to MP615B. My name is Jim Moore and I'm going to be your instructor for the course. What we're going to talk about today, I'm just going to give a brief introduction on my background, then provide an overview of the Applied Research Project, talk about course information for MP615B, give some tips on writing the literature review, Canvas information, smart thinking tutoring support, talk a little bit about some additional writing resources that are available, highlight academic integrity and Turnitin.com information, talk about my policy on late assignments, and also provide technical support and contact information. So just to kind of go over my background, I actually got my undergraduate degree in applied psychology from the University of Illinois at Chicago, and then went on to get my master's degree in industrial psychology at Elmhurst College. I'm also just starting my second year and finished up my first year in the PhD program at the Chicago School. Since I've earned my master's degree, I've spent several years working in private industry with a lot of information pertaining to business analysis and fair and responsible lending and compliance with JP Morgan Chase and HSBC. Outside of my work life, I enjoy spending time with family and friends in Chicago. I also do a lot of acting work whenever I have time, and I'm a baseball fan, and I'm looking forward to better winning seasons for the Cubs. So in terms of the Applied Research Project, as you're probably beginning to see after completing MP615A, it really is taking a problem or issue in a real-life setting and applying it to a real-life work environment. And basically kind of the connection that's there is taking theory, something that's grounded in aspects pertaining to psychology, ideally in your concentration or area of interest, and applying that to a real-life work environment. And you're going to be finishing up all the components in the ARP 615 and MP 620 courses in both the A and B sections. And each course component will facilitate a completion of different parts of the project. And as you're seeing, you already completed your proposal for the project in 615A. You'll be completing the literature review in this course. And as I show, just to kind of highlight some of the different project types again, whether it's a workshop or a program, evaluating a program, developing a program, or developing a grant proposal. Those are the main four types, and hopefully you have a good idea at this point what you're going to probably be doing. And I think as you kind of get additional literature and review and analyze that scholarly literature and write your literature review, you'll really kind of have a good fundamental background on how to apply that information then going forward with the remainder of your project. And this just kind of shows, and I was kind of touching on this a couple of slides ago, what you'll be doing and what you can kind of expect for the remainder of your ARP in terms of completing different components for it. You're completing the literature review portion in this course through the outline. That's one item you'll be completing later on in the term, and also a final draft of your literature review. And then in 620A, which will be the next ARP course, you'll be putting together a project plan for your ARP. And really, what that's kind of similar to is like a methodology, if any of you have ever written methodology papers before. Basically what it does is it kind of just describes the materials for your project, who would be participants, things like that, who the population is. Those are the kinds of items. It really kind of just puts together like an instruction or framework for your project so that the reader can easily understand it, and also it could be replicated in a real-life setting if desired. And you'll also be putting together those peripheral documents for your project in the 628 course as well. So depending on which one of those four project types you have, a lot of the documents will be consistent with that. And in 620B, that'll be the final ARP course, and you'll be putting everything together that you've completed in that course, and also submitting that final ARP and a PowerPoint presentation on your project and recording it, and then defending your ARP by answering 5 defense questions in that 620B course. And those will be provided by the Showcase Committee who reviews your project in that course. In terms of 615B, really at the end of the day, at a high level, what this course is meant to do is give you the opportunity to review and analyze literature and write your literature review. That's really the crux of the course and kind of what you'll be doing. I'm going to be giving you some feedback in terms of some things to think about, and some of the assignments early on will kind of help in that process of developing your information so that you kind of have a nice blueprint just to write everything towards the end of the term in regards to organizing your literature review, critically analyzing your literature. Everything kind of is put together to kind of help make that process a little bit easier so that it's not as daunting writing the literature review by the end of the course. The course structure for this 615B course I've put here, and this is again in the actual course in Canvas. You could go to this information as well, but just make sure you go through the different modules and lecture notes before completing the different assignments. And like I was talking about, everything's kind of set up in a way to kind of help develop that literature review. And in the first 2 weeks, you'll be writing article critiques on the remainders of your sources for each week, and that'll kind of just help really get you thinking about the information that's in your different pieces of literature and how it applies to your project topic and what you're writing on in the literature review. And some other assignments that'll kind of help with this in terms of organizing your literature review are these week 3 and week 4 assignments, one being the synthesis matrix. That assignment, and I'll have an example in the announcements for you to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like, but basically it's just like a kind of like a table, and it really gives you an opportunity to organize the themes of your literature review. You should really kind of come up with about 3 to 5 themes or main topics for the body of your literature review that kind of highlight the main kind of components or themes that relate to addressing the topic of your project. And this matrix kind of gives you an opportunity to kind of highlight how the different sources contribute to those different themes, what the implications of the literature are, and how they relate to those kind of main topics. And it kind of helps you organize your literature in terms of the direction you're going to go with discussing some of the themes and topics and organizing that information together. And then you'll expand further on that with the outline. And really what that's going to do is just further give you kind of that blueprint for writing the literature review and organizing the introduction of your paper, which really kind of just sets the stage for what you'll be writing and discussing about in the literature review. And then the body section, which will be really kind of encompassing of those main topics and themes that you brought up in the matrix, and kind of expanding on those by introducing supporting points relating to those main topic items, including as needed citations from the literature on some of those supporting points, and really kind of organizing all that information together. And then also including a conclusion which basically summarizes the literature review and what was discussed throughout the literature review, and kind of helps to wrap up what was discussed. And then in weeks 5, 6, and 7, you'll be submitting drafts of your literature review. In week 5, it's a minimum 5-page draft for your first draft, and then 2 additional drafts culminating with a final draft in week 7. So some tips for writing the literature review. And I kind of mentioned this on the last slide, but really kind of when I write papers in psychology, and especially with like the style of literature review, there's some things that help me kind of framework the information I'm talking about and kind of help me with organizing that information. And really, I kind of look at it just visually in terms of like 3 sections. One being the introduction section, which is supposed to really kind of introduce what you're talking about in the literature review and kind of provide an overview so that it sets the stage, like I mentioned, for what gets discussed throughout the remainder of the literature review. And then there's a body section which really kind of highlights those main themes or topics that the literature falls into that you'll be discussing, and how, what those main topic items are and how they apply to addressing the topic of your project. And when you're writing throughout, make sure that you're using effective transitions. Your paragraph length is typically between, I would say, minimum of 3 sentences per paragraph, no more than 6 sentences. That's kind of the guidelines for the paragraph length. Make sure when talking about different studies, you add some depth to talking about them, in the sense that you give a little bit of the background of what the authors in the study were analyzing, and also what the implications of the findings from the study were and how those relate to your topic, and also any strengths and limitations in the study. And I think the article critiques will kind of help facilitate some of that information. It'll be really valuable for you to kind of go back to and help provide a baseline to remember kind of what each article or study did that you're going to be talking about and including in your literature review. And then some other things in terms of general writing style. Just make sure you're using respectful tone, professional language, that it's objective, not biased, that you're using active statements and not using passive writing, things like that. Canvas, make sure you're checking that periodically throughout the term. Course information's all there. Also, any announcements I post, sometimes I include attachments of student examples and things. So make sure you're familiarizing yourself with the modules in Canvas and all the information, along with any announcements I provide. Also, my contact information's there, and if you have any questions that would maybe benefit all the people in the class to know about, you can include those in the general questions discussion section of the course as well. Smart thinking is available if you need it. Probably as you saw in the proposals, and I'll be doing this again in the literature review, I'll be giving you a lot of feedback on how you can kind of help enhance your writing and develop your deliverables. But if you feel like you kind of need additional writing support that's maybe more general, and just kind of, if you're feeling frustrated or need some additional guidance that you're not getting through me in terms of like just basic kind of fundamental writing skills, Smart Thinking could be a good option for you. And that is available in Canvas. If you go to the left-hand side of the course, you'll see the option for Smart Thinking. And it gives you several different things once you click onto it. One of the things is that you can have your work reviewed by a tutor in the Writing Center portion of Smart Thinking. There's also opportunities, depending on tutor availability, when you can chat with live tutors. You can also schedule to meet with a tutor in the future and send them offline questions as well. In addition to those writing resources, you can also work in the NCAID, which is who ARP instructors, that kind of department in terms of services provided. There's an area of e-tutors in NCAID, and they actually provide additional coaching, kind of more general writing support, similar to what you get with Smart Thinking, but it's in-house through the Chicago School. And I provided their contact information here. It's etutors@thechicagoschool.edu, and their phone number is 312-379-1611. Remember to familiarize yourself with the academic integrity policies in the student handbook. Any assignments submitted, writing assignments in Canvas, also generate turnitin.com reports. Make sure you're kind of always paraphrasing throughout your writing. You probably started to learn this when writing the proposal, but avoid using direct quotes too frequently. I would suggest maybe 1 per every 3 pages is a good guideline. And make sure you're using your own words, you're citing appropriately, giving credit through citations to sources as needed. And also too, if you do see when you submit an assignment, if it's before the due date, make sure you kind of review the Turnitin report just to make sure it looks okay. If there's areas where maybe it's highlighted that are highly similar to the original source, you could always go back and revise that information, paraphrase it, and then resubmit the document. So that's just something to kind of be aware of. And remember just that any papers that are suspected of plagiarism would be submitted to the lead faculty or department chair, who would then draft a student affairs committee referral, and papers that are referred for violation of academic integrity policy, if it's found that plagiarism did occur, those cannot be rewritten for credit and receive a 0. Late assignments, you know, I'm pretty flexible with regarding extensions and things. Just make sure you give me 24 hours notice. Remember that if you are granted an extension for an assignment, that really they should be submitted within that week that the assignment's due. And if any assignment, if you don't ask for an extension and it's submitted late and it's more than 72 hours late, you will automatically receive a 0. If it's submitted late and you didn't ask for an extension and it's within that 72-hour time frame, typically what happens is, per policy, you lose a letter grade for each day it's late. So just some kind of things to consider with late assignments. But just make sure you ask for an extension if you need it ahead of time so that you don't have issues here and needlessly lose points. Technical support information is available through Canvas. There's a 24-hour help desk. It's this 1-800 number here. Really the easiest way, you know, all the contact information's here, but also the help technical support information is in the course in Canvas. If you go to the top right-hand section of the course, you'll see an area called Help, and just click there and that'll provide all the information needed if you need to ever contact Canvas for anything. If you're having any issues accessing or there's some sort of technical issue with the Canvas tool, you know, definitely make sure you let the help desk know so you can get that issue resolved. My contact information's here. You can either reach me through email or phone and also Skype if you feel that's easier to do, especially for students who are internationally based. Sometimes Skype is the best way to talk with me. And I'm pretty available both during traditional hours and also non-traditional, like work hours. So I'm pretty flexible at scheduling time. And I'm pretty open and available to talking to students. So definitely feel free to contact me, you know, phone, email, or Skype whenever you have any questions or concerns, or if you want to set up some time to have a meeting to review feedback or anything like that. So now I'm going to open up the floor for any questions or concerns and stop the recording. Thank you so much for dialing into this meeting tonight, and wish you the best of luck this term. Take care.